tongue.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the continuation of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Radical Eurotrip Championship for 2023, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today, we're taking a look back at all the racing action from round 5 of 12 as we kick off the Central Cup of the series, making our way onto Central Europe, and it all begins at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. A circuit that looks simple on paper with only 10 corners of name. This is a circuit that sees the lap broken up into two halves, one focused around straights and heavy braking zones, the other one focused around sweeping corners and off-camber corners that come with it. So therefore it sounds quite a simple circuit on paper, but it's far from it when you take to the tarmac, for the simple reason this is a circuit where you need to achieve a fine balance between being the guru of slipstream on the straights, also being bold on the brakes, and also having the technical competence to carry the speed from apex to apex when all the corners towards the very end of the lap become treacherous with their off-camber nature. Bring it all together and you may just be coming out on top. However, get it wrong in any part of the lap and you may find yourself falling off the circuit and picking up a slowdown penalty. Alternatively, you may end up under battling Duresh going into the next braking zone. But as always, guys, get ready to go racing today. Let's take you through the schedule in this post-round broadcast. We'll bring you all the racing action as if it were live from circuit side, with the racing having occurred as of earlier this week on Wednesday the 11th of October 2023. But we're bringing it to you as if it were live this fine Saturday the 14th of October 2023. And as we see our schedule, times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC +1 is as follows. In just under 13 minutes time, we'll make it away into the qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration. We'll have our drivers out of the circuit on respective sessions in order to set their best possible qualifying time, after which we then make our way straight to the grid for one and only race today, the first sprint race of the Central Cup, and who is going to come out on top in 30 minutes of racing, due to kick off at 5:30. But as all our drivers get themselves set on a splendid day, we welcome you all to tune in via this live broadcast, which is being brought to you live via two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly, on YouTube, if you go to youtube.com and search for TX11TX or Paul Walsh on YouTube. Alternatively, if you're more Twitch inclined, you can go to twitch.tv/TX11 and tune in there. But who is TX11? Who is Paul Walsh, I hear you ask? Well, allow me to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator for this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX11 or Britain the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action over the entirety of this season. And well, let's go to our calendar and explain why perhaps we jumped over a round. In the fact that last time we brought you up to speed with the racing action, it was round number 3 at Brands Hatch. However, with round number 4 being expected to play out at Silverstone on the 4th of October, unfortunately due to unforeseen circumstances, the round has had to be cancelled, and therefore the Northern Cup has effectively concluded after 3 rounds of racing, and therefore we will be announcing our Cup winners shortly for the Northern Cup, and we move on to the Central Cup. But let's give you a reminder, we started off back with round number 1 on the 6th of September in the first sprint race of the season at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and it was a Belgian doubleheader to open up the calendar, with the Spa-Francorchamps circuit being followed up by its neighbour that's lesser known perhaps, or at least in terms of infamy, versus Spa-Francorchamps, and that was round number 2 at Zolder on the 13th of September. And in round number 3 saw us kick off what was meant to be a British doubleheader, but in the end it was just the single round in the United Kingdom of Brands Hatch, the Grand Prix circuit. And while I think we'll all agree, the racing we saw at Brands Hatch was absolutely phenomenal. And in particular, we got to see some major highlights, including Peter Lowe picking up his first win of the season up front in the Pro class, albeit not overall, only in class. And it was Ilya Speaker, the Prime driver, who absolutely ran away with dominant form at Brands Hatch to take the first Prime overall win that we have seen in the Middle of the Pack Racing League Series this 2023. But now we kick off the Central Cup. It's the 11th of October. It turns our drives to the tarmac, and it's the first of 3 sprint rounds at the Red Bull Ring. Then we'll see our drives make the way to the Hungara Ring, aptly named after the circuit, or the host country for the circuit, I should say, of Hungary. That'll be round number 6 on the 18th of October. And on the 25th of October, our drives will make the way to Germany for the Hockenheim Ring at Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit. And well, what around that's going to be, and a circuit which is highly technical in nature, and one to watch out for if the Hungara Ring and the Red Bull Ring, which you're going to be seeing beforehand, aren't enough to whet your appetite. Then in round number 8, we'll be seeing our drives head to France for the Circuit des 24 Hours du Mans, also known as more colloquially Le Mans, in reference to the local township, and that'll be our next feature race round of the season on the 1st of November, with 45 minutes of racing action there and no qualifying session. And now bring the Central Cup to a close before our drivers have a second mid-season break. It'll be a break week, and then they return for the final Cup of the season to wrap things up. That'll be round number 9 that kicks it all off, and the start of a Spanish triple header at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. That'll be on the 15th of November, after which we'll then make our way to Motorland Aragon on the 22nd of November, the highly technical circuit which follows after the more balanced circuit at Barcelona, Catalonia, and then in round number 11, the final sprint race round of the season, it'll be the Circuito de Jerez that plays host to our drivers, with wonderful elevation changes and sweeping corners intermingled in there on the 29th of November, and then round number 12 will see us bring down the curtain on the 6th of December in Italy at the Autodromo Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, but you will know and love it and refer to it as Imola. So plenty of rounds of racing to go, and when it's only appropriate now, we bring you up to date with the standings. And as we can see, after 3 rounds of racing, starting the Pro Drivers' Championship overall, James Logsdon leads the way by 4 points over Peter Lowe. Whilst Logsdon wasn't quite able to keep Peter Lowe at bay at Brands Hatch and finished just behind him, the key point being that James Logsdon has been able to get it across the line to take the Northern Cup win there after 3 rounds of racing, but Peter Lowe is hot on his heels. Outside the top 2, we then have a 12-point gap to John Croom in P3 on 122 points, only ahead of Jordan Butler based on result count back, with Butler bringing his form on strong over the last couple of rounds, and then Jake Gertson at P5 ahead of Jason Angie, again result count back being the difference between the two of them. Then it's Big Hendricks P7 ahead of Milan Harris, with Franz Oshing and Logan McKenzie completing your top 10. Aaron Lahr P11 ahead of Tanner Dibble, and they wrap up your standings there as we then come onto the Prime class. And here we can see in the Prime class, Ilya Speaker with a 34-point advantage. We have not seen an advantage this large in the history of the middle of the pack racing at League Series for some time. And arguably, Ilya Speaker could be becoming the favourite with regards to this Pro-Am class over the overall championship. And you may remember, some of you may remember from Brands Hatch, I made the joke remark, what did he have for breakfast that morning? Well, I did have the pleasure to catch up with Ilya Speaker after the racing at Brands Hatch. And he informed me he hadn't had anything special with regards to breakfast, just his normal breakfast routine. But the key point being he was able to steer clear of all the batting at Brands Hatch, and that's what made the difference. And indeed, that's where Speaker has been in terms of he's been able to steer clear of the danger and the battles and just run away up front. However, Adam J. Ballard will not be kept at bay with regards to the fact he'll be looking to hunt down his fellow Rockefeller racing driver, but he's got to be aware of the fact that Mike J. Young behind him P3 on 93 points is closing the gap fast, only 7 points off, and then it's a further 7 points to Charles Halsey, with Jay DeVries completed the top 5 there on 85 points. John Lauzon at P6 on 81 points has a sizable advantage over Avon Dorsey, that point advantage being 35 points in total. And then Sammy Hendricks, Jermaine Warren and Samuel Crown who complete your top 10. And then Lee Porter and Dominic Ford outside the top 10 there, wrapping up the standings. We then come on to the AM class last but not least, and here we can see a familiar picture compared to the Pro class in a way. JR Davis on 86 points leads the way and has been able to take the Northern Cup crown as the first 3 rounds. Dustin Dos Vies, I should say, coming into P2 there on 82 points, 6 points kit of Dan Vitchuk, and Dos Vies starting to close the gap to the leader and really showing that pace that's coming on through. However, don't count out Vitchuk either in the fact that he's been also consistent over the last couple of rounds, and consistency really has been the operating adjective when it comes to our drivers here with regards to how they've been performing. We've had plenty of fast performances from drivers, and those do include Kevin Manning and also Samuel Bernardi, P4, P5, both on 67 points and separated by results count back, but they haven't had the consistency that the top 3 have had, and that's why they're at the bottom end of the top 5. And if they can find the consistency to marry up to their pace, then we could see the table standings very quickly upside down. In terms of the fact that inversion could see the challenge to the top, and the same could be said for Jesse Jameson Jr. in P6 on 66 points, who starts off very strong, but come round number 3, things didn't quite go his way. Mark Senegal and Nicholas Feller both on 59 points. Senegal ahead of Feller there in the battle for P7, with Glenn Bratton and David Turn completing your top 10. It's a James Kingsbury who's only outside the top 10 based on result count back versus David Turn in P11, ahead of Tim Chong, with Nick Bader, Billman DaCosta and Nick Yakubov completing your top 15. Stephen Shalafu P16 ahead of Roger Ganesh, and it's Braden Milling, Ian Henneberry and Keith Wilfred who complete your top 20 for the AM Drivers' Championship. Now as we come onto the Teams Championship, we can see here that Rockefeller Racing Cold lead the way by a growing margin out of 65 points over Reverse Grid Racing, and that advantage continues to grow from round to round, and right now the Rockefeller Racing Gold outfit do seem to be on course here to really start to carve out a lead and making everybody play catch up. Bear Pope are only a further 6 points behind over, and the battle for P2 is growing stronger by the day, and you could say it's not just a two-way fight for P2, with Rockefeller Racing Green a further point behind, and there's only a further ways beyond them, 11 points to Bear Pope's 5-0. So the top 5 teams, one runaway leader, and then the rest of the 4 trying to chase after that runner-up spot and trying to keep Rockefeller Racing Gold honest in the process. AlphaTauri Change Gold in P6, meanwhile, they've had a difficult last round at Brands Hatch, but 175 points. They're not out of the woods yet with regards to battling for the top 5, we should say. Then Sunday GT Turtles, ATC Silver, DNA Motorsports, and Rockefeller Racing Red complete your top 10. But notice again how close it is outside the top 5 of the remainder of the top 10, with P6 through to P10 being separated by only 22 points, and at any moment we could see these standings absolutely shaken up to the core. Flavor Station Racing in P11, 136 points. They've fallen a little bit out of favour with regards to the top 10 recently. However, they're not too far away and could try to fight on back today. 17 points off of the top 10, and their third 3 points behind them is Photon Clan with Slipstream Softs in P13, 118 points, and in middle of the pack wrapping up the standings there in P14. So to reiterate, in terms of our Cup Championship winners, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to say a big congratulations to the following drivers who picked up the first prize award of the season, and that's a win in the Northern Cup. In the Pro class, it was James Logston, number 42 for Team Bearpope. In the Pro-Am class, Ilya Speaker in the 106 for Rockefeller Racing Gold, and J.R. Davies in the 208 for Rockefeller Racing Red in the Am class. Congratulations to all 3 of them. They'll be picking up their $5 reward, and of course they have the pressure on them now to try and make it 2 cups out of 2 over the next 4 rounds. But coming on to our circuit for today then, it's the Red Bull Ring Grand Prix circuit, one that's much known and loved around the international spectrum, whether it be Formula 1, GT class racing or everything in between. It's typically raced here if it's a road racing format, and as our drivers take to the circuit located near Spielberg in the region of Styria in Austria, as we can see from the circuit map provided us by iRacing.com. Thank you to them for their wonderful simulator, and with it also the brilliant track maps that are provided. It is a circuit of 2 halves. And also on top of that, a 2-dimensional image doesn't show how significant the elevation changes are from corner to corner and straight to straight. But as our drivers make their way across the start-finish line and uphill into turn number 1 and Niki Lauda corner, named after, of course, the infamous Austrian Formula 1 driver, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but we remembered in infamy, and indeed picking up his 3 Formula 1 championships. And as our drivers charge their way into the infamous corner, they'll come through the right-hander and make their way uphill even more so out of turn number 1, and look to return to full throttle as soon as possible as they charge up the hill towards turn number 3 at AMS AG. Now, there's a bit of controversy as to whether you consider the left-hand kink of what is turn number 2 there on the circuit map as an official corner, but it is in reference to what is the MotoGP chicane that's placed there, and that's why we're referring to it as turn 2. And as they make their way through the left-hand kink and into the heavy braking zone, it's an uphill braking zone, and you could brake incredibly late into the turn 3 hairpin, and we're going to expect our drivers there to battle on the brakes as late as possible. However, they need to be wary that the apex curve is very highly raised off of the circuit, and therefore they want to clip the curve, but nothing more than that. As always, we could see some drivers going around with oversteer, but get it right, they'll then pick up the power as they make their way all the way down to Roush Corner at turn number 4, a downhill braking zone there off camber as well as they make their way towards the apex, and this is a braking zone where it's very easy to outbrake yourself, particularly when you're battling. Have a get it right, you'll then go full throttle through the right hander at turn number 5 and up the hill and into the depression for braking into Power Horse at turn number 6, a downhill sweeping left-hander that's off camber that sets up the run into an even more heavily off camber turn number 7 with its blind apex, and the switch back into the right hander at turn number 8. And then there's the short run up the hill and down into Jochen Rindt Corner at turn number 9, named after, of course, the other infamous Formula 1 driver, and indeed a motorsport professional, coming around the same time, if not a little bit before, Niki Lauda himself, and coming through turn number 9 and down into turn number 10, what was previously known as the A1 Ring Corner. They'll make their way through the right-hander to complete lap and do it all over again. Now, to give you a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing, in terms of setup, drivers shall run a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 46%. Qualifying wise, it's an open qualifying format, so all drivers will be out on the circuit, but it's split into 2 halves. The first half shall see the AM class take to the circuit, the second half shall see the Pro-Ams and the Pro classes take to the circuit. And in the sprint race itself, it will commence via a double file rolling start, as it's a tradition of the Middle of the Pack Racing League series of this type, and they'll be held up to the green flag before we go racing. Each driver has 1 fast repair available. We're not expecting any pit stops today, but it will either be for repairs, alternatively for a drive-through penalty if our drivers have accumulated 18 or more instant points. And should there be a major incident at the race start, we may see a safety car deployed. Otherwise, the safety car shall not be deployed during the race at any other time. Well, that's enough for rules, regulation, everything between, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm hearing that qualifying is coming up very shortly, so we will be right back within 30 seconds, and we will be back for qualifying. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss this. And we get back to it, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for qualifying, and as our drivers start to make the way out the pit lane, of course, it is the turn of the AMs first and foremost, as they all charging out there in their 3.7 litre V8 Radical Engineering machines. And to give you a quick reminder, this machine, powered by the V8 engine, as produced by Radical Engineering, is a very lightweight machine weighing in just over 500 kilograms when you also factor in the driver, coming closer to 600 kilograms plus the fuel. And on top of that as well, with its lightweight nature and a horsepower output of 380 horsepower, these machines are incredibly volatile and unstable, but at the same time, when mastered, are an absolute pleasure to drive. And our drivers are going to know all about that when they make the way on through the latter half of the circuit in particular, because whilst it's all about the power in the open half of the circuit, after turn number 4, the dimensionality of the circuit turns to keeping that rear end planted and carrying the speed from corner to corner and through the apexes. But as they all make the way around, we look to J.R. Davis here, making his way down towards turn number 4. The Rockefeller Racing red driver, of course, Cup winner of the Northern Cup, as he pulls to the side then lets other drivers through. I think just trying to get himself set up there and making some tweaks on the steering wheel. But as we look from him to Ian Henneberry here in number 237 coming on through the left-hander. Well, these drivers right now getting themselves set up at 9. They haven't got long, given they've only got 7.5 minutes in order to put in the ideal qualifying time. Now rolling on through here, what does it take to deliver a good lap at the Red Bull Ring tub, you may be asking? Well, it's a combination of two halves. You do ideally want the slipstream for the first half of the lap. With the fact you do have 2 long straights, if you exclude the start-finish straight, we're referring to the run out of turn 1 up towards 3 and the run out of turn 3 in towards turn number 4. If you're in the tyre of another car, you can pick up the best part, which is 3 to 4 tenths on the lap. However, the second half of the lap, you don't want the toe, because the off-camber corners plus dirty air will mean that you'll pick up a huge amount of understeer going into those corners, and you may find yourself falling wide of the circuit going out into the gravel trap and seeing your lap invalidated. So therefore it's a balancing act, and that's the key theme of this circuit. It's all about finding the appropriate balance between aggression on the straights and being smooth through the corners. And if you get it right in qualifying, when you add that slipstream in as well, you could be on pole by a significant margin. Alternatively, you could be away from pole by quite a disappointing degree. But as they make the way on through, we should point out as well that we have seen 2 drives promoted from the AM class to the Pro-Am class in the gap between round 3 and round number 5 today. And that does include, and we should point out, Keith Wilfred, who makes his debut in the Pro-Am class now as of this round, and Dustin Dosviers, who has moved up to the Pro-Am class as well. There was a review of the classes by the organisers and the administration team after round number 3, and there was a big question mark about Elliot Speaker, given the fact that Speaker is leading the Pro-Am class by 34 points at this time. It's been an unprecedented gap. But when they've reviewed all the footage from the opening 3 rounds, what they found is that Speaker's pace is up there towards the top of the Pro-Am class, which is absolutely brilliant to see. But also Speaker really has been able to manage races where he's just been able to avoid getting caught up in all the batting, and that is why Speaker is running away, and therefore he's been kept in the Pro-Am class, albeit a verdict has been put out to all the drivers and are aware of this. Come the end of this season, whoever takes victory in each of our classes in the overall championship, they will be promoted. So our AM winner will go up to Pro-Am, and our Pro-Am winner will go up to Pro for the purposes of the 2024 calendar season. And as our drivers start to set their first laps on the board here, with Daniel Bernardi currently your provisional pole sitter after 1 lap delivered on a 1:27.776. And keep your eyes out for Bernardi. I think he's had a little bit of a rough start to this season as the Rockefeller Racing red driver, and it's not something we've come to expect from Bernardi, and that's not to besmirch his reputation. But indeed, many of you will remember back in the GR86 Championship just how fast Bernardi was. He seemed to be untouchable at the front of the Anfield. I think adapting to this Radical SR8 machine really has proven to be the sticking point, but he's getting there with it, and we are seeing that already with regards to this qualifying session, already half a second clear of everybody else. And let's not read too much into it at the moment, as we could still expect some drivers to potentially improve quite rapidly and significantly, and perhaps Bernardi's just been able to get the best lap out of the box thus far as he makes the way between turns 7 and 8. In terms of weather conditions here today and what we can expect with regards to how sticky this circuit is going to be, which you can see an ambient temperature of 26 degrees centigrade at 32 degrees centigrade track temperature. That track temperature will likely dip slightly in this qualifying session, but then rise back up when we go racing, as all of our 28 cars will be out on the circuit rather than in restricted numbers as based on the class sessions. But the point being around here is we've got a relatively moderate to high temperature, so this circuit is going to bring those tyres up to temperature quite rapidly. It is going to feel as though it's quite an aggressive circuit, which our drivers can push push on, but they have to be aware of the fact when they go racing towards the end of the race, in the final 5 to 10 minutes, they might find the tyres start to become overheated, and as a result, they might need to back it off slightly, or alternatively, take it calm in the first half of the race and then build up to a crescendo. With some partial cloud, as I look at my commentary, we've got some cloud over the start-finish straight, but elsewhere on the circuit, the cloud seems to have moved away. It does mean that track temperature is going to stay high. It's not going to dip too rapidly at all. And well, as we move into the second third of this qualifying session, with our drivers out there currently, who is going to be the one to find a way onto pole? Well, Bernardi is still the fastest man out there, but Mark Senegal has gone P2 on what is a 27.30 to the nearest 100, so he's not too far away. But there's Jesse Jamison Jr. who's P3. We're looking at Ian Henneberry here, but to speak about Jamison Jr., let's see him out on circuit in the number 231 as he makes his way up the hill and into the braking zone here for turn number 3, and coming on through the right-hander there, looks absolutely seamless in joining the apex together with the corner entry and the corner exit, and that's what you want to see. That smoothness is where the speed is. But as he makes his way on through, we do look to Samuel Bernardi making his way into the final corner, and we jump on board here for a flying lap in the hands of the capable number 212 driver. So he makes his way to the timeline. It's a personal sprint there to a 26.678, new fastest lap this qualifying session. Breaking into turn number 1, he'll brake around 70 meters of corner apex, chucking the car down 3 gears to 3rd gear, and immediately back on the power as he clears turn 1 and up towards turn 3. Looks as though it happened in an absolutely minuscule amount of time, and indeed the balancer going from the brakes to the throttle. He's got to overlay the two to settle the rear of the car down as he makes way for the Kinkatu, now braking into turn 3 and brake at the 100 meter board all the way down the gearbox to 1st gear, connect the apex up right over as much as you dare to dream to do so, and going onwards towards turn number 4. Now charging his way down towards the braking zone for Roche corner and looking over to his left-hand side, he'll let the car creep more and more over to the left, and then going onto the brakes at the 100 meter board, coming all the way down to 3rd gear, use the apex curve to lift the front right side of the car and turn it on through, and now coming out of 4 through the right-hander of 5, keep the car into the right here to set up 6, and braking at the 50 meter board there, going as late as he can for that late apex, down to 4, a little bit of oversteered as he came through the corner, had to correct by downshifting a 3rd, and going into turn number 7 now. That will spoil the flow a little bit into 7 as he comes into 8 and having to fight at the steering wheel there. Good recovery as he comes out of 7 into 8, and now up the hill into Jokerin corner at turn number 9. He'll go as late as he can here onto the brakes at the 50 meter board, drops a gear and just lifts off the throttle as he comes on in, and now down into turn number 10, braking now about 60 meters of corner apex down to 3rd gear, using the full track limit as possible, and as he makes his way out towards the timeline for Bernardi, it's not been an improving lap necessarily, but very close to improving. He will have one more lap available to him just about, as the rest of the classes, the Pro-Ams and the Pros are queuing up at the end of the pit lane, but it is going to be checker flag out in this session for the AM drivers, so Bernardi will be the only one to get a 5th flying lap. Everybody else will only get a maximum of 4 flying laps in. And well, Mark Senegal's in the pit lane. We've got a car around there on the exit of the final corner, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that was one of the Rockefeller Racing red cars. Ian Henneberry goes P2, Jay Davies goes at P3, and Tim Chong holds P6 on a 27.758 is what he's improved to, but no positional change. We have also got Kevin Manning coming on through the final corner. He's on a best lap in terms of personal best as he cross line. He goes P6 instead at 27.542, just creeps ahead of Chong there and just close to Jameson by 2 tenths. So a good qualifying session had by many. Samuel Bernardi still out there, but he has taken your pole position in the AM class for this round. Meanwhile, we now look to the second half of this qualifying session, ladies and gentlemen, as it's the Pro-Ams and the Pros rocked in around the circuit, and as they do, we do say hello to a good number of you in the chats, whether in the YouTube or the Twitch chat. Don't be shy, feel free to say hi. We're a supportive community here in the middle of the pack Racing League, and we love to have you tuning in, week out. We do say hello there in the Twitch chat to Dark Sykes 4738, and I hope you're doing well, Dark Sykes, and having a good weekend so far. And if you're not, hopefully a little bit of radical racing will turn that frown upside down. But as our Pro-Ams and our Pros go on to their first qualifying laps here, well, the circuit has been set, the rubber has been laid down by the AM drivers, so this is going to be a circuit that will very quickly see those times tumble. We're expecting a low 26 as the minimum for pole here today in terms of the overall pole position. Could we perhaps even see a high 25, perhaps a 25.9? We'll have to wait and find out, but we've not got long to wait given the fact this session will be over quite rapidly. But as we see Jason Landry making his way on down towards turn at number 9, we do say hello to John Lauzon in the YouTube chat who's enjoying the broadcast. Glad to hear that, John, and I hope you're doing well today. And well, as Landry makes his way on through here, going on to his first flying lap, and Landry getting himself all set up here and knowing he's got to try and find a way to get back into the hunt in the Pro class. given the fact he's a little bit way down the standings. But meanwhile, the big question is, where is the man of the hour? That's James Logsdon, the pro class, your current championship leader. How is he getting on right now? He's on his first fly in that car, looking smooth and hooked up so far as he comes on through turn number 4 into 5. He's got quite a few Rockefeller racing cars there. You can see the gold and the green teams, I think, intersecting one another and all trying to find out where they want to be in their respective order. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a speaker in amongst that group, but they'll figure a way out. They'll all want to try and give one another the toe over their qualifying laps, but also not impede one another. And that's the thing you can do when you've got multiple sister teams out there. You can try to work together as a group. It's not discouraged. Indeed, that's why our team's championship's available. As long as you don't step on one another's toes, that's the aim here. And that's the one thing you don't want to do as a team, is step on each other's toes. You need to put the team first or individual drivers. But as Logsdon makes his way out of the final corner, what's it going to be here for his first flying lap? Well, as he crosses the line, it is going to be P3 there behind Kroom. However, it's a 27.160 for Logsdon, behind Kroom's 27.138. So I think Logsdon feels as though there's a bit more out there, and that's just a taste of what's to come. As more and more time starts coming in. What about Tanner Dibble? I hear you ask. Well, Dibble making his way out to turn number 3, up towards 4. A bit of a lonely circuit for Tanner Dibble from DNA Motorsports. In fact, looking very lonely out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps he's deciding qualifying just to go for some space of his own. It is something that some drivers prefer. They might know of the slipstream game in terms of the fact that being in the tow of another car can gain you 2 to 3 tenths over lap as a minimum. But some drivers just do not feel comfortable trying to put in their best possible lap in the tow of another car. And I'll put my hands up, ladies and gentlemen, as a fellow sim racer. I prefer to do my qualifying without another car right in front of me, because I want to get the most out of the car and the circuit, albeit some circuits around the world, such as Monza, which isn't on our calendar for this season, but hypothetically, if we're to say Monza is, slipstream is critical if you want to get the best possible lap out there. But as he makes his way in towards turn number 9 into the Ring corner here, coming down the gears and seeing the flames spit out the rear of the DNA Motorsports Radical, and into the final corner here. Well, what's it going to be for Dibble as he heads to the line? He's the only driver not to get a time in this session so far. As he crosses the line, it's P24 at 28.735. It puts him ahead of Porter, Dorsey and De Vries. I think you'll feel as though there's a lot more out there. And Roger Ganesh in the AM class, we should point out, didn't get a time in. We believe there's an issue with Ganesh's car, and the Sunday GT Turtles driver may not be making it to the grid at all today. And if he does, he'll be starting from the back of the field. Fairly a speaker, they're currently provisional pole sitter in the prime class. P5 as we see up there low, going up to P3. Harris holds P4. Kroom versus Logsdon is the story at the top of the field, however, and Speaker has got Lauzon only 200ths behind in terms of time currently. And here is John Lauzon, the Avatar and Change silver driver, making his way up the hill. I do believe that's the silver car unless I'm mistaken, going into the braking zone here as he comes on through at the right hand. Well, right now John Lauzon, we can tell you the fact that he's absolutely fired up going into this round. The bad luck he has had in previous renditions of middle of the pack racing at League Series, and particularly the GR86 Championship, that bad luck seems to be going away, and it's so good to see Lauzon back to his very best and fortune also on his side, and that's what we've wanted. And the 177 driver right now enjoying his racing once again as he makes his way into turn number 6. But as he comes on through at the left-hander, will mean a while in terms of drivers who are struggling a little bit at the moment. It does look as though Jake Gertsen not quite happy with the way this session is going. The reverse grid racing driver as he makes his way up towards turn number 4, currently P10, albeit he has got this lap plus 1 more to go. So I think it feels though there's a bit more time out there, and he's got the time to do it. But this qualifying session a little bit further down compared to we've typically seen the number 16 driver. Normally we've seen him chomping around the bottom end of the top 5 or just outside the top 5, but P10 at the moment. As Speaker moves up to P5, we've seen Tanner Dibble improve but staying P26, and Milan Harris has just moved up to P2 off camera on a 26.239. That's a big change there for Harris, now only 8 thousandths off of Kroom. But speaking of John Kroom, it would not be appropriate for us to talk about him without seeing him on screen. And here he is, and the Rockefeller racing at gold driver right now. Well, currently working with his teammates there, albeit a bit of a gap between them as the 3 gold drivers make their way up the hill. And as they come in to the right-hander of turn number 3, the AMS AG corner, well, right now all equidistant from one another and gaining that toe, siphoning it off of one another and making it work. And I think Ilya Speaker at the front of this group as they make the way on down there. And I think Speaker right now, I think feeling as though he can get the job done quite a bit to a degree under his own momentum. As we see Jason Landry takes provisional pole on a 26.173, and we say hello to Ilya Speaker in the YouTube chat, who confirms for us that he's playing the rabbit right now as they make their way down through turn number 6 into 7. But Landry on top, and what we did say, where is Jason Landry in terms of that pace, in terms of the points this season so far? Well, he's right back on form there. Landry looking good, 600ths faster than Kroom's current lap, and we are starting to see those low 26s really come around, those 26.1s. Landry being the only driver to set a 26.1 right now. Can anybody else break the deficit into the point ones of the 26s. We'll have to wait and see. Landry goes wide there, and this will be his final flying lap, so that'll be an invalidated lap, and Landry will be cooling down now, knowing he can't improve any further. Meanwhile, Kroom does improve with 10 seconds to go now, and he's 6 thousandths off. You have one more lap available to him. So for John Kroom, this is looking as though it's now going to be do or die in this qualifying session if he wants that pole position versus Landry. Meanwhile, we're seeing further improvements in the pro drives up and down the field. Logston's moved up to P6, Lowe's up to P5, Lars up to P7, Butler's up to P8. But in the prime class, nobody's really improving right now. And well, on his debut into the prime class, Keith Wilfred, currently the Rockefeller Racing red driver, P22 not improving. This is a difficult qualifying session for Wilfred as he makes his way up the hill towards turn number 1. And I think Wilfred here just feeling as though the time's not coming with the car, and this could be a frustrating session. And the same for Jay De Vries here, as a reverse grid racing driver pulls over with his qualifying session complete. P18 today, it's not quite what we expected, but meanwhile, we look to Logan McKenzie, the Alpha Touring Challenge Gold driver, as he makes his way up the hill in towards turn number 3, and currently P14. But I think this is a cool-down lap, ladies and gentlemen. He's not going quickly through there, but one driver who is going a lot quicker right now compared to what he's previously done is Tanner Dibble, as he makes his way in towards turn number 9, coming through the right-hander. He's currently 1.7 seconds off a pole. He needs to get a lot closer than this if he wants to be fighting for big points today. As he comes out the final corner, he's improved in sectors 1 and 2. What's it going to be when he comes to the line here? Is it going to be enough? It's only enough for P22 at 27.332. A struggle for Dibble today. Meanwhile, Ilya Speaker comes to line, stays P4. Milan Harris, meanwhile, jumps to pole position there on a 26.012. My goodness, he shattered the sky almost at 25.9, and I can see John Lauzon has also improved to P7 at 26.420, but Milan Harris pulling it out the bag, it would seem, and there's only now 1 or 2 drives out on the lap, and in fact Keith Wilfred's coming into the pits. That will be qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Milan Harris who right at the close of the session takes pole position in the pro class and overall, and a 26.012, almost 1.3 tenths faster than John Kroom, but it'll be them on the front row of the grid. P4 overall will be Ilya Speaker with prime pole position, and then in the AM class it's Samuel Bernardi who takes pole position, P11 overall. And well, what a qualifying session it has been. Some firm favourites seeing their way back to the top of the standings, but Milan Harris taking his first pole position of the season, and what a qualifying session there for Harris, as now it's time for us to head to the grid. So the drivers make their way onto the grid. This is how they'll line up for our race today. Well, after invalidated laps are accounted for round 5 of the Radical Eurotrip Championship 2023, as hosted by Middle of the Pack Racing League here on iRacing, it is John Kroom who takes pole position by, 26.136. So Harris's lap did not stand for Rockefeller Racing Gold, and it will be Sunday GT Turtles Jason Landry who joins him on the front row. Behind him on row number 2, it's Milan Harris, P3 in the end for Rockefeller Racing Gold, head of Ilya Speaker, the prime driver for Rockefeller Racing Gold there, who lines up P4, your prime pole sitter. Then on the third row, it's Peter Lowe for Bear Pope 0, joined on the road by Bear Pope's James Logston. The two rivals will go at it again into turn 1, there's no doubt about it. And on row number 4, it's Aaron Law for the privateer outfit and the head of Jake Gertson for Reverse Grid Racing. We then have on row number 5, John Lauzon for Alpha Touring Challenge Silver, ahead of your AM pole sitter Samuel Bernardi, promoted to P10 there for Rockefeller Racing Red, with Dominic Ford starting best to SP Element there for Photan Clan, ahead of Logan at McKinsey for Alpha Touring Challenge Gold at P12. On row number 7, it's Avon Dorsey for Rockefeller Racing Green, joined by DNA Motorsports' Jordan Butler, with Lee Porter for Middle of the Pack having a good qualifying session starting P15 on the 8th row, joined by Ian Hennebury for Bear Pope 0, your second place AM driver on the grid. Jay De Vries lines up P17 there for Reverse Grid Racing, joined by J.R. Davis for Rockefeller Racing Red, the AM champion for the purposes of the Northern Cup, having a difficult qualifying session versus Hennebury and Bernardi in particular, and these followed up by the AM pair of Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles and Jesse Jamison Jr. for Photan Clan, who starts P20 and wraps up the top 20 on the 10th row. Row number 11 goes to Tanner Dill for DNA Motorsports and Keith Wilfred for Rockefeller Racing Red. And then we have Kevin Manning for Photan Clan starting P23, joined by Mike Young for Reverse Grid Racing. And on row number 13, it's Tim Chong for Slipstream Sloths, joined by Glenn Bratton, the privateer. And on the final full row of the grid, not getting a lap time in, Jermaine Warren from Middle of the Pack Racing and Sunday GT Turtles, Roger Ganesh. And I can confirm that Ganesh is going to be on the grid, ladies and gentlemen. He's starting from the very back, so they've got the car fixed in time. And as we get ready to go racing, the formation lap is already underway, or the partial formation lap we should say. And as they make the way on around behind the pace car, we are now only about 30 seconds from green flag racing, if that. And John Croom takes his first pole position of the season in the 45 for Rockefeller Racing Gold. And can he bring on home his first win of the season? Or will Jason Landry alongside him find a way to get ahead and break away? Well, all that more is about to come, ladies and gentlemen. Who is going to be leading after turn 3 on this open lap? Well, let's find out as they make the way downhill. It's going to be to John Croom to take us to the green flag. And we have ahead of us 30 minutes of racing. And it's lights out and away we go here for round 5 of 12 in the middle of the pack Racing League Radical Eurotrip Championship for 2023. Croom gets a good start, but look at Landry looking around the outside, and Harris goes all in on the inside. They all concertina into the opening corners here. All drivers coming through. Couple running wide there, using that as the safety route as they make the way beyond the yellow curb. But everyone makes it safely through turn 1 and up the hill they charge now towards turns 2 and 3. Bit of battling as we see that Jordan Butler's had a disconnection right at the start of this race and puts him right at the back of the field. But as they all charged away up towards the braking zone for turn number 3. Well, Butler does rematerialise from the ether, staying P11 at the moment, but everybody now tightly clustered together here, 3 wide on the apex between Mike Young, Lee Porter, Jesse Jamison Jr. and Mike Young gets ahead there for reverse good racing as they make the way on down, but as they charge away into the next braking zone. Meanwhile, Jordan Butler here trying to battle side by side with Samuel Bernardi. Bernardi holding the outside here, trying to take P10, but Butler says no and puts his foot in it there for P10 himself as they make the way through. Carl going wide at the back of the picture, that's Ian Hennebrake getting it slightly wrong, and as they make the way up towards turn number 6 now, everyone onto the brakes once again, and we'll start to see everyone calm down to a degree, albeit saying that Bernardi and battling side by side here with the number 4 of with Logan McKenzie, and McKenzie on the outside, all the way around the outside to give himself the inside for turn number 8. Bit of a rub there between the two. McKenzie loses the rear of the car. He's gone round but catches it into the gravel there. More cars going round. I think it's a bit of a domino effect here with Jay Davis onto the gravel. It's disaster for Davis and the same for Jamison Jr. But meanwhile, it's not over yet. We need to focus on the free one that's starting to appear in the run into turn number 9. And that's Jermaine Warren right now from the middle of the pack, in the middle of it all, with Keith Woodford going around the outside of both him and Mike Young. Young there under pressure from Roger Ganesh. Ganesh up the inside, gaining another place. He's up into P4 in the AM class. Ganesh is absolutely flying, despite starting from the very back of the field as they make the way up towards turn number 1 at once again. We've still got plenty of 2 wide into the braking zone. Kevin Manning there looking for the move up the inside of Young, going for it. It's the Votan Clan drivers. He makes his way on through. We've got a car off there, and that's pointing the wrong way. That is Milan Harris who's gone wrong out of turn number 1. Not quite sure what the story is there for Rockefeller Racing Gold, but it's gone wrong for Harris. But meanwhile, looking from him back to the front of the field, where one gold driver of the Rockefeller Racing team has fallen, another has risen, and John Croom leads after 1.5 laps. Head of Jason Landry P2, Ilian Speaker P3, James Loxton P4, Peter Lowe P5, Aaron Lahr P6, John Lowes on P7, Jordan Butler P8, or is he as he battles here with Jake Gertson? Gertson there now looking on through, and it's going to be Butler gets it for P8 ahead of Jake Gertson P9, Samuel Bernardi P10, and Bester S P11 is Avon Dorsey currently as they make the way down and around through turn number 6 for the second time of asking. But as they do, meanwhile further battles playing out down the order. We do have Tim Chong versus Glenn Bratton here. Bratton loses out versus Chong for a brief moment. I believe Kevin Manning's got a slowdown penalty for track limits, an automated one. That's why he shots a long way down the order. We still do have 28 drivers racing in this race, 28 starters, 28 still out on the tarmac. But Bratton there, he's got smoke coming out of the car. I think the engine's about to blow. I'm not quite sure if there's been a misshift or something, but Bratton now will be limping to the pit lane. Something is broken on that car. It's disaster for the 502 and the 289. But meanwhile, looking from him back to Ilya Speaker. Here is your third place driver overall, your prime leader, currently headed James Logston. And Logston did find his way past Peter in the opening stages of this race. He was able to hold on after making the move stick into turn number 3. And as they make the way up the hill towards turn 3 this time, Logston's got to go even more, because remember, our drivers only score points for overall finishing position in the primary, particularly in the pro class. It's in terms of the other classes, there are bonus points available for those who finish on the podium in the prime and the AM classes. Remember, it's 50 points for the overall win, and in terms of winning in the prime or the AM classes, it's an extra 3 points for the win, 2 for second, 1 for third, but otherwise the pro drivers only get the overall points, so therefore everybody wants to be the winner of the race overall, and that's why you'll see AMs and primes fight the pros just as much as one another as they make the way around. But meanwhile, speaking of battles aplenty, Logan McKenzie here trying to make his way past the outside of Dominic Ford. Ford loses the rear of the car and slides out onto the gravel there, and well, as he tries to be up to speed, you have to wait for the field to come on through, but there the Protan Clan driver almost ends up in disaster with Logan McKenzie, but in the end taking himself to the gravel trap almost, but bringing it back on just in time. And as he brings it back together, drops all the way down to P25, but that could be the story of many a driver here, and nobody will want to make any mistakes as this race rages on, particularly when you get to those closing 5 minutes when all the hard work has gone in and it could be undone at a brief moment's notice. But as we ride on board and look back here from the AlphaTauri Change Silver car, John Lauzon charging away onto the next lap. Lauzon under pressure here, and that is behind him, the car of what is Jordan Butler. Butler looking up the inside here as they head into the braking zone, not quite close enough, tucks back in, and as he does so goes to the slipstream once again. They ride on through, and you notice the drivers riding that exit curve, the raised yellow sausage curve coming out of turn number 1. That helps stabilise the left hand side of the car, because the car naturally wants to skid out the corner, given there's a depression in the road current through turn number 1 on the apex, which unsettles the rear of the car, particularly for mid-engine rear-wheel drive machines, which these radicals most definitely are. And as they make their way out, Lauzon there with a little bit of power oversteer coming through the corner, turns the steering and gets the power down too quickly, and as he makes the way out towards turn number 4, it's going to be a side-by-side battle here with Jordan Butler. Butler on the right of your picture, and he will get on through, and Lauzon in the end has to relinquish the position, knowing he'll have to try and go for it again a little bit later on. But Lauzon there, I think, showing caution over what could have been a near miss in terms of getting it wrong coming out of turn number 3. And as they make their way up towards turn number 6 now into Power Horse Corner, in reference to the statue nearby, charging away on down right now, and Lauzon just continue to try and put the pressure back on Butler here. But from them, we do look to Tim Tron versus Kevin Manning and ride on board with the Votan Clan driver. And keep in mind that Manning right now trying to get back in the hunt here as he makes his way on through, albeit there, I believe we had an off for Roger Ganesh, slightly off camera on the left-hand side, and that's why they all went quite slowly on through the corner, just trying to take it as easy as possible. But as they make their way on out and up towards turn number 9, going into the next braking zone. Well, Manning right now carrying on. We're hearing that Dominic Ford has had to be taken to the pit lane, an issue with the car, and they've had to retire the car forthwith. But meanwhile, number of drivers running wide there, including Wes Harris versus Dibble in front. And well, would you believe it, these two pros fighting for what is P9 in the class, all the way down in P19 overall. And it's going to be Harris who's on a recovery drive here after that early spin cost him extremely dear. And as they make the way into turn 1, this time it is Harris ahead of Dibble. Dibble just tucking in there, and the DNA Motorsports driver, I think, prided himself on his consistency, and that will keep him in the hunt over the remainder of the race. But meanwhile, we look from them to Ian Henneberry, and while I'm not quite sure what's happened to Samuel Bernardi, but Bernardi's had a major error somewhere that has dropped him all the way down to the back of the AM class. He's down to P26 from leading the AM class, and it's now Ian Henneberry, the Bear Pope Zero driver, who is your class leader as he comes on down towards turn number 4, and as he makes his way into the braking zone here. We're only 7 minutes into this race, would you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? The rapid pace of the racing here at the Red Bull Ring does mean we're going to get plenty of laps in, and therefore this race is going to feel like a test of endurance for some of our drivers, or at least a test of consistency as they make their way deeper and deeper in. But as Ian Henneberry right now finds leading is one thing, but bringing it to the checkered flag is another, particularly when you have Mark Senegal behind, of which we say hello to Mark Senegal in the YouTube chat, who's watching at back the action now. And as they make their way up the hill and towards turn number 9, we can have a bit of a difficult test here. Does he let McKenzie go, or does he keep the AlphaTauri Change Gold driver behind him? I think right now he's looking for the right time to let McKenzie go, and that's coming here as they make the way onwards towards turn number 1, because now McKenzie's got a nice long straight, he's got the double draft as well, and all McKenzie needs to do is pull up the inside. Senegal just needs to lift off 20 metres before his braking point, and McKenzie will get the run, and they'll carry the speed into the next corner, and exactly that plays out here. And Senegal playing the tactical game now. He tucks immediately right back into the toe there on McKenzie's car, and he'll lose no time versus Henneberry, but the idea is he can use McKenzie now as a sled to pull him up towards what will be his rival as they make the way out the hill. We're hearing that Ian Henneberry having some slight connectivity issues, but he rematerialised on our screens there. Still in P11 at lead of the AM class, but now Senegal will be hoping to glue himself to the back of McKenzie, so when McKenzie goes up the inside potentially of Henneberry, presuming that Henneberry's not able to coordinate the swap of places, much like what Senegal was able to do, then it will be an opportunity for Senegal to go for the lead of the AM class race. But as they come down the hill in towards turn number 4, you can see that the two drivers in front are really aggressive on the braking, going as late as they dare. Senegal very conservative there as his braking point into turn number 4. I think wary of the double draft of the cars in front, and now that will cause some understeer on the braking, but he drifts the car into turn number 6 there, and having to let the rear of the car settle down where he returns to the pack. You can see, in fact, McKenzie now starting to break away here, gap up to 6 tenths, and Henneberry as well maintaining the gap at 9 tenths to Senegal. So perhaps the 227 driver just not quite comfortable with how the car's feeling in that dirty air as they make the way in towards your Rink corner. But as they do, the Bear Pope Zero driver Henneberry under pressure, lose the rear of the car. He runs wide, there's no grip there, and almost ends up in the pit lane. He ends up into the pit lane wall. wall, and Henneberry gets it reversed, but that's going to be damage to the car, and that is going to absolutely cause his race to unfold in the short window of a single corner and one barrier. And for Henneberry, it's a disaster after looking to be such a strong showing. But as he brings himself back up to speed, again, anything can happen before that checker flag waves. And speaking of anything happening right now, Tanner Dibble up the inside there. Oh, but Jay DeVries loses the rear of the car out of that and onto the grass coming out of one. And Dibble catches the car just in time where it ends up in the barrier. But as you can see now, losing more places, and Dibble back to P20 after moving up a few places recently. But meanwhile, speaking of moving on up, we look to the front of the field, and this is Jason Landry, who has found his way past John Kroom. That's happened off camera for the lead of this race as the Sunday GT Turtles driver in the number 5. Trying to break away here as they flow on down in towards turn at number 6. Now we're only 10 minutes into this race, and keeping in mind here, it looks like the mistake threshold is very low, and I wonder now if some drivers who push very hard at the opening 10 minutes of this race are starting to worry about how hard they push the tyre compound on the car. Again, this is a sprint race, it's only 30 minutes, when the tyre compound only lasts at full potential for around 15 to 20 minutes on these radicals, particularly when it's a hot circuit, which is what we do have here today at the Red Bull Ring. You can imagine some drivers right now may be wondering whether they've bitten off a bit more life than they can chew going into the second half of this race, and whether it will come back to haunt them, because Landry leads right now ahead of Kroom with Logston at P3, and then your prime leader of Idiot Speaker P4 just behind. But could we see perhaps some of the drivers behind come into this battle a bit more as we get towards the latter half of this race? As they make the way on through and up the hill. Meanwhile, we look to Keith Wilfred, who under a bit of pressure from Mark Senegal, and Senegal really on the attack here as they make the way through after Ian Henneberry's mistake. Senegal looking very comfortable in the Sunday GT Turtles car right now. The Canadian charging. Meanwhile, just behind, that's Jermaine Warren versus Lee Porter, the two middle of the pack drivers here. No strangers to fighting one another and battling in the prime class. And keep in mind that Jermaine Warren started from the very back of the field, P27, so he's made a lot of progress here. Side by side, they're going to turn at number 3, and as they emerge, a little bit of contact there, and Porter being given the elbow as he tucks back in now. Albeit I think Warren at this point might be grinning a little bit and saying, "Got you there, Lee." And I think Lee's now going to be thinking, okay, how can I pull one back on him? But as they make the one down, I think they've got to be aware of the fact they've got Mike Young just behind him, and the reverse grid racing driver not too far away and itching for a fight himself as they make the way out of turn number 4 and up towards turn 6, but charging away on throw and in towards the next braking zone here. And will now, I think Warren and Porter will need to calm it down between the two of them and try to work together, or what's going to happen there is Porter is going to go a little bit deep by looks of things at turn number 6, and that's actually going to give Warren more breathing room to 6/10 here. And I think Porter now maybe wishing he'd stayed a bit closer to his teammate, because now he's going to be vulnerable to Young as they make the way towards the Jochen Ring corner. But they head into the braking zone. We're hearing that Jesse Jamison Jr. has had to be towed to the pitch due to an incident out on the circuit, and well, we could potentially be seeing his car in the pit lane for quite some time. So look at my contact booth window, it does look to be quite a heavily damaged car. But as our drivers make the way on to the next lap, will mean while we look to the leaders here, and Landry is being caught by Kroom and Logston. They are getting incredibly close as they make the way out of turn at number 3 and onwards. We jump on board with the third place driver Logston, who is the pursuer here, and where you can see at the rear wing of what is Kroom's at Rockefeller Racing Go-Kart saying more gas, less brake, and right now Logston will be saying, I'm giving it all the gas she's got, as they make the way down towards turn number 4. You see Logston there already opening up the corner. He's looking for a move here on Kroom. I think he feels so. He's got the pace to be leading this race right now, and Kroom is a bit of an obstacle as Landry's been given some breathing room, and Logston getting incredibly close there into turn number 6. And as they make the way through the left-hander, where Logston can find his way past Kroom, I don't think it's going to be a question of if he can get close enough to Landry. It's going to be a question of when he gets close enough, because right now Logston is the fastest man on circuit. Last lap was the fastest lap of the race at 25.94, and it was set by this man in the 42 as he makes his way into turn 9. And remember, he's currently the Northern Cup champion, and he's looking to try and kick off the Central Cup with a win as well as they make the way down through turn number 10. But the question is, can he get it? Can he fight his way past the two cars in front as they make the way on to the next lap here, charging across the line? And what they do, Peter Lowe sets a personal best in P5 at 26.144. So Lowe's not out of this yet, but it does look as though this top 3 are 7/10 clear of Idiot Speaker in P4. So Lowe's got the hard work of find his way past Speaker first, and if he can do that, then he might be able to find a way into this fight. And speaking of Speaker versus Lowe, as they make the way up towards turn number 3 here, Lowe very close behind, but can he go for the move into the braking zone? He thinks about it, but he's not close enough to go for it. Also, I think what Lowe is thinking about here is, if I go for the move now, am I going to cost myself the time to the top 3? Because remember, when you battle here, even if you're battling with a driver who's going to let you go, although I get the feeling that Speaker may not let Lowe go immediately, he may want to battle for that 4th place and the extra points that will come with it come the end of the race and at the checker flag. But the point being, even if they don't fight at all, they're still going to cost one another about 2 to 3 tenths against the next pack, and it's those 2 to 3 tenths which then Lowe's got to try and find under his own steam, and that is something that's very hard to do here at the Red Bull Ring, particularly in the first half of the lap. So it becomes a bit of a chess game here. Do you make the move, or do you wait until the guy in front of you definitely is struggling to stay with the leaders? With Speaker's pace right now is comfortably aligning with the leaders to a degree. But meanwhile, we look back here to Jake Gertsen, who's really coming live now for reverse grid racing in the number 16. And we said about the fact he has one of the poorest qualifying sessions we've seen for some time from himself. And as he makes his way into turn number 19, we're behind Aaron Lar right now, and these two are in a great little battle between them for his P6 Pro class, P7 overall. Lar's been holding it there, but he doesn't hold it there for much longer as he catches some snap oversteer there on corner exit, and well, in the end, with the runoff area there available, he's able to settle it down before it went onto the grass, and Jake Gertsen's going to take the place immediately, and that battle comes to a brief end for the time being. Meanwhile, further back, Keith Wilfred on the chase of what is there, Mike Young, as it's gone very wrong, and that's Mark Senegal into the wall, and what was looking to be a comfortable AM lead, and suddenly end up in tears. Rear wing broken on that car. Tim Chong comes on through, and Chong for the first time in his series history takes the lead of the race today in the AM class, P18 overall. Now, can he bring this home? That's the question. Every time we've seen somebody take the AM lead, they've eventually fallen out of it through one form or another, and right now it'll be on his mind not to end up in any mistakes or incidents. The Slipstream Sloth driver, I'll tell you one thing, with the pace he's showing, the consistency, he's far from a sloth as he makes his way up towards turn number 3. But still, as he makes way into the braking zone here, he'll just take it one lap at a time. That's what you've got to do as a driver here when the mistake ratio is so easy to achieve. And meanwhile, battling hard is Keith Wilfred versus Young. Young there trying to turn in, but finds Wilfred being quite bold in the move and assertive. And a B for Keith Wilfred using the space available to him, plus also getting his elbows out, and Mike Young in the end giving him the extra space in order to let Wilfred go. Although I don't think he wanted to let the move happen, but Wilfred saying, you've got no question about this, it is happening, as they make their way down into turn number 7. But as they come through left into right here, Wilfred now on his next attack will be to Jermaine Warren, and Keith Wilfred, to be fair, since being promoted to the prime class as of this round, didn't quite show the pace perhaps in qualifying, but in the race, Wilfred really coming on strong here, and I think the Rockefeller Racing red driver, as well as drives, he goes better under race conditions. He just seemed to be able to extract more out of the car. We did see that to a degree at what was Spa-Francorchamps as well. The way he brought the car and the pace in the second half of the race was very different compared to most of his rivals. A lot of his rivals were really pushing on and struggling in the final 10 minutes, but not Wilfred, and we're seeing that here as we move into the second half of the race now. 14 minutes still on the clock, plus the final lap, as they make their way up the hill towards turn number 3, and Keith Wilfred up to P5 Pro-Am, P13 overall. His next target is Jermaine Warren, who is 7 tenths up the road. Can he close the deficit? As you can see behind, everybody queuing up there. Meanwhile, Jay DeVries a bit further back, and DeVries having different starts this race for reverse grid racing. And I think right now the number 16 driver still trying to push on and close up to likes of Porter and Young, but you can see that group of 4 a little bit further up the road, and that's where DeVries wants to be. But will he be able to get there come the end of the race? That will be the challenge that confronts him. As they make the way down, at Dibble staying in the tow right now. I don't think looking for a move for the time being. I think Dibble will only go for it if he feels that DeVries is holding him up here and cost him race time. Dibble is a very intelligent driver with regards to that. Indeed, you remember all the way back from the touring car racing series in 2022, the way Dibble approached races was about assessing whether the driver in front was costing him time and whether it was more valuable to sit behind at the midpoint of the race or whether to make the move or wait until the end of the race when he had all the pace in the bag. But as they make the way up towards turn number 9 this time around, Dibble getting very close here, thinking about a move into the Ockenring corner, goes onto the brakes. I think he's getting a message through to DeVries, which is, I can't afford to sit behind you any longer. But DeVries there taking the race line. Turn 9 is a very difficult move to make in terms of the fact it's a corner that tapers to the off-camber nature. And as they make the way up towards turn number 1, DeVries still there in P16 ahead of Dibble. But meanwhile, looking from them back towards your leaders, your top 3, it's still Landry, Kroom and Logston in that order, with Peter Lowe now head over to your speaker. That's happened off camera, and meanwhile we've had an instant for Jay DeVries. As soon as we looked away from it, it's gone very wrong for DeVries. Carrying on through turn number 1, the reverse grid racing driver with a nasty shunt on the rear end of the car, and I think he's also gone into the tyre barrier there. And well, whether there's contact with Tanner Dibble or not, we can't quite tell you, given the fact we looked away just before it happened. but we can see the Vries there. I think it's going to have to be towed to the pitch due to the damage, and his race has sadly come to an end. And we would love to have seen more from the Vries today, but still there'll be more time, there's no doubt about it. But as they make the way up towards turn number 9 right now, Landry, Kroom and Logston all together, albeit once again Landry able to breathe, whilst Kroom does not have the capacity to be able to breathe freely here in terms of that battling. As we ride on board and look back from Kroom, that's Logston who gets a much better run out of 10, albeit too far back to really capitalise here. But the point being, Logston right now is definitely starting to get more and more threatening as this race goes on. And as they make the way out to turn number 1, I'm hearing in my ear that Aaron Lars got back ahead of Jake Gertsen in the battle for P7 overall. That's happened out the final corner. I'm not sure if there was a penalty involved in that, but either way, Lars has found the place back ahead of Gertsen as they make their way onto this lap. But the flame spitting out the rear of Kroom's car goes into turn number 3, gets absolutely hooked up, and meanwhile still more battling here between Weslar and Gertsen, and now Gertsen has got back ahead in the run through 2 and up towards 3. I think these two are trying to work together to hunt down Jordan Butler, who's only 2.3 seconds up the road, but to no avail right now. Meanwhile, looking back to leaders here, it's all kicking off every which way you look on circuit right now, but we are going to stay with the leaders for the time being. Landry being caught up there by Kroom and Logston as they come down through turn number 4 into 5. Now I wonder whether Landry is starting to struggle here. We've got the final 10 minutes of the race about to come up, and it looks so the number 5 car right now, it still looks to be in control here. And to be fair, Jason Landry, a very accomplished sim racing driver, indeed at the highest levels of esports, and he'll know how to manage the tyres on the car. But I do wonder here whether Kroom and Logston right now are just getting back into the fight, and Logston is the danger man out of this trio. He just looks so much more comfortable in the car, and able to take more time out of it compared to his rivals right now as they make the way to the next lap. But there's nothing between these guys as they go on to another turn of the circuit. Logston sets a new fastest lap of this race. A 25.936 is now the bar to beat for the fastest lap, and the bonus points available there. And Logston is the man pumping in those laps as they make the way out of turn 1, and he could not be closer right now, could Logston, as they make the way out towards the braking zone, charging the way through. We looked at the blimp camera. Will he look for the move up the inside here? He is going to go for it in that long run. Logston all the way in on the brakes here, and Will Kroom, I think, knew it was going to come and just lets it happen. Logston with some power oversteer and corner exit, but catches the car very comfortably indeed. And as they make their way through, Logston moves up to P2, but now can he do the same to Landry, or will he find a change of opponent? Means the circumstances are very different. I don't think Kroom is going to counter-attack immediately because of the fact they've still got 9 minutes of racing plus the final lap, and I think Kroom recognising that Logston could be his ticket to race victory should Logston and Landry have a bit of a moment together. But as they make the way through turn number 6, rolling off the left-hander there, you see all 3 drivers absolutely pushing it to the very edge of the track limits. Nobody wants to go too wide, but they all want to maximise their time. And meanwhile, looking a bit further back, Keith Wilfred in a battle with Jermaine Warren for the 4th place in the prime class here, P12 overall, and Wilfred looking for the cutback there out of turn number 4. He gets it successfully, and in fact gets a really nice run off the corner, but is it enough versus Warren, given the fact he's got Young right behind him, and Mike Young in this battle as well, as they come through turn at number 6. Warren almost parking on an apex there, a bit of a poor run off the corner, but Wilfred's had to respond by backing off as well. And that's the thing, the closer you get to the car in front, the more you feel that effect of the dirty air. The only time some drivers have been telling me you don't feel it is when you're within a tenth off of the car in front. For the simple reason, at that point, you're so close, that dirty air essentially becomes negligible. You're more focused on your lines. But as Wilfred runs a bit wide there, out of turn at number 9 into 10. Would only feeling the dirty air there, and also very close to picking up an automated slowdown. That would have been a track limit warning. But as they make the way on to next lap, close, 2.5 tenths of the gap, but not close enough. He makes his way under braking into the right-hand of turn number 1. It's an instant there. All 3 drivers almost coming together. And what brilliant cat-like reflexes Wilfred to get the brakes on. Also there, credit to Warren for getting the car pointed back the right way. But Mike Young, being a little bit further back and being abstracted from the scene, said, okay, I'll just go around outside and take both places. And the reverse good racing driver there, being smart and sensible, and moves up to P4 prime, P12 overall. And now, of course, he'll have the onus on him to try and run away, given the fact that Wilfred's only 1.1 seconds behind, and he could close that gap down in the time remaining, given that the predicted pace of the drivers over the race thus far. But as they make the way down towards turn number 4, we'll have to wait and see how that comes on through. Meanwhile, a slow running Lee Porter out of turn number 3 lets on through to the right of your pitch there. What is Chong? Also going to have Davies going around the outside to the Rockefeller Racing cars. Both are going on through, or do they manage to do so here? This is going to be side by side under braking. And in fact, that's not Chong, my apologies, that's Harris going on around there. Chong's a lot further up the road, which should correct ourselves. The Photon Clan driver made his way on through much earlier on. That's Davis and battling, well, Davis has got ahead. Meanwhile, Harris now battling there with what was brought up, but finding his way around, and Milan Harris does get the move done. There was full confidence, and the Pro driver gets another place. But to be fair, P18 right now, P10 in the Pro class, it won't make him too happy, as there Davis having a bit of a slow run off a turn, mate, and I think letting Harris go. The two teammates, or the two sister team drivers, we should say, don't want to impede one another, and they're in completely different classes of race. As they come down in towards turn number 10, both cars with some damage, particularly Harris's car. You can see all the damage to the front bumper when they make the way onto the next lap. Meanwhile, we look from them to a bit further back up the road. This is to Jake Gertsen versus Aaron Lahr, and well, these two are absolutely inseparable here. You could write a story about the two of them for this entire race, and that's not being sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen. It's just how they've been connected together for so long. It's almost as if they're in their own little battle, and whichever one of them takes the win in this battle, they'll feel like they picked up a race victory of their own. And Gertsen holds on versus Lahr at the moment. It does seem as though Gertsen is the faster of the two drivers coming on through the latter half of a lap, but the first half of a lap, Aaron Lahr is the faster of the two, albeit when they get in the toe of one another, then the difference is negligible. But as they make their way on through turn number 8 and up towards 9, Gertsen also hunting down Butler, and the DNA Motorsports driver here only 9/10 clear. I think Butler is now starting to fall off the proverbial cliff of pace. The new fastest lap of the race, you guessed it, James Logston at 25.732. He is continuing to tighten the noose of pressure on Jason Landry at the front of the field. We'll come back to that battle shortly, ladies and gentlemen. But meanwhile, Jordan Butler back onto the pace we expected last time around, and now maintaining that gap to Gertsen back up to a second almost as they make their way on towards turn number 2. As they charge their way up the hill. Meanwhile, looking back here to Ian Henneberry, who we briefly lose for a moment. He is being chased, but he is chasing down Glenn Bratton, I should say. And Bratton here, the privateer, under some growing pressure. Albeit this is the battle for what is P23 overall, P6 in AM class. But meanwhile, we've got Jason Landry versus John Crone. We're not quite sure how it's happened for Logston to get ahead, but I think there it must have been a move coming out of turn number 3. Perhaps there's been a bit of a moment for Landry, but now Crone coming in to the fold here. But Landry immediately coming back side by side. Drifting a little bit wide the apex. Kroom has to take a very extended circumference around the corner. Around the outside, Kroom does manage to hold on, and as they make their way through the left-hander of turn number 6 into 7 and 8, right now these drivers nose the tail as they go, and going onwards towards Jochen Ring corner. Landry right behind, but it's Logston who has taken the lead of this race, and as they make their way up towards turn number 10, the point being here that right now Kroom, I think, trying to put the cork in the proverbial bottle and make sure that the Canadian spirits of Landry don't come on through as they make the way into the final 4 minutes of this race. 3 more laps to go here at the Red Bull Ring in the first round of the Central Cup, round number 5 of the overall championship for the Radical Eurotrip 2023. And right now, this middle of the pack Racing League series is absolutely exploding to life on our screens, ladies and gentlemen. And who is it going to be? Who's going to take the second step on the overall on the pro podium? Will it be Kroom? Will it be Landry? Or could Logston be brought back into this? Although I think Logston right now has had the leash let go, and he's just running away with this. Although saying that, Kroom gets a bit close down the exit of the corner. Glenn Bratton going a bit slowly. Saints going on for Bratton over the course of the run out of turn number 3 on his lap. But meanwhile, looking further back to the battle for P5 in the prime class, this is Jermaine Warren trying to put pressure on Keith Wilfred as they make their way through turn number 1. Wilfred there, not quite able to carry the speed he would like. Warren close, Tanner Dimble also there in the wings, waiting to pounce. We ride on board and look back from the rear of Wilfred's car. The Rockefeller Racer in red car under intense pressure here as they make their way into the braking zone. As they do, well, it's going to be on the left of your picture, Warren, then it's going to be Wilfred on the outside, and Dibble tries to squeeze between the two of them. He gets one in the form of Wilfred, but he doesn't get the other, so Warren does get the move done. So does Dibble, and Wilfred loses 2 places at the price of 1 corner. And I think that's going to be a bit frustrating, but now Warren under pressure from Dibble as he defends on the inside into turn number 4. He doesn't want to lose the place. He doesn't want to be relegated back into the battle with Wilfred. He wants to keep Dibble between the two of them and use him as a spacer, but also to pick up P13 overall means a couple of extra points in his pocket. But as they make their way down into turn number 6, I think Dibble's going to be knocking on the door for the remainder of this race as they make their way down through turn number 7. And well, meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, off camera, this man, John Kroom, has had an incident of some description. He's dropped down a P4 in the pro class, and overall Peter Lowe has moved up into P3, and I'm hearing in my ear it's happened towards the end of the lap they just come off of. I believe it may have happened at turn number 9, but the point is Kroom's made a mistake. Now Landry's back up to P2. Logston is a second clear in the leaders race, and Peter Lowe is P3. But as they make the way on towards what is this penultimate lap, in fact already onto it, more battles playing out further down the order. field, and Kevin Manning here for Votan Clan. Up behind it was Roger Ganesh, and will these two right now squabbling over P4 in the AM class, or is P21 trying to find their way up some more points here, and Manning in particular, who's been looking at quite strong in the race conditions today, but it hasn't worked out with regards to the instance earlier on, but still he's got one more lap to try and get that place back as they make the way in towards the braking zone versus the very colourful car of Ganesh. And I must admit, it's one of the fanciest liveries on the circuit. It's Manning, they're almost losing the rear coming out the final corner. Such is the conviction with which he's attacking the asphalt of this circuit, and now on to his final lap of racing here today. Well, in fact, there's going to be one more after this. We apologise, it's the penultimate lap for these guys because the leaders are coming on through to go on to what will be for them their final lap. And we're speaking of the leaders, here is your leader of James Logston as he goes on to lap number 21. It'll be the last lap of racing here, and meanwhile Peter Lowe sets the fastest lap of the race at 25.678, and once again Peter Lowe demonstrated that right now he has got the pace to be battling towards the very front of the field. We have seen that in the Northern Cup, and we're seeing it again here, but today his qualifying position is just put him too far out of the fight for the win. But I can imagine he'd be thinking to himself right now, if I qualified a little bit better and had a better start versus Logston, I may be winning this race. And as they make the way on through, I think Lowe won't mind the fact he's going to be on the podium. It'll be some huge points, but Logston will be starting to open up a championship lead if things finish as they currently stand. But as they make their way down towards turn number 4 here, the drivers right now, they're separated by small margins, but a small mistake could be all the difference to bring it back into a hair's width. Meanwhile, battling here for P3 and P2 in the prime class, and for P10 overall, it's Lauzon versus what is their Dorsey, and the Avatar and Change Silver Drive defending on the inside out of 3 down towards 4. It's going to be a drag race here. Dorsey's going to have more room available to him. Lauzon meanwhile's got the authority to the inside line. Well, Lauzon will have the better run of the corner here unless Dorsey can get the cut back. He tries to, but he gets a bit too close, and Lauzon can just simply park the car then say no you don't. Lauzon puts the defense right in the prime position, but meanwhile as they make the way out the final corner, that's Landry right behind Logston. The checker flag is going to beckon, ladies and gentlemen, and who's it going to be? Well, I think Logston's going to do it, and indeed he is. James Logston takes the checker flag and the win for Team Bearpope, and Jason Landry P2, Peter Lowe P3. It'll then be John Kroom will finish P4 ahead of Ilya Speaker, who makes it another prime win. A P5 overall today for Rockefeller Racing Gold ahead of Jordan Butler and Jake Kurtzen, Aaron Lahr P8, Logan McKenzie P9, and John Lauzon comes out the last corner. A mistake from Avon Dorsey, and Lauzon confirms his P10 status and run up in the prime class ahead of Avon Dorsey in a brilliant battle between the two of them. It will then be shortly Mike Young who is going to come on through for reverse grid racing to finish just outside the podium places of the prime class, but P12 still, P4 in class. A great drive from the reverse grid racing driver. He continues to grow, and then Keith Wilfred at P13 on a great recovery drive for Rockefeller Racing at red, and then it will be Tanner Dibble who comes on through P14 ahead of Milan Harris P15. But in the distance, ladies and gentlemen, here he comes for his first win of the season in the AM class. Tim Chong takes the AM win, P16 for Slipstream Slavs, and the 222 driver from Canada, I don't think could quite believe it right now, ahead of JR Davies P2 in the class, P17, Lee Porter P18, Samuel Bernardi fights back to the podium in the AM class, P19, third place in class. Roger Ganesh takes, well, could this be? I think Ganesh will slow down right at the end, so Kevin Manning will snip there right at the end of the race. P20 over Ganesh and P4 in AM class. Ganesh P21 in. Henry comes on through to P22. He'll be kicking himself for that early mistake in the race that cost him dear, and he will be your last finisher on the lead lap, with the only other finisher, you can see him there in the camera shot, Glenn Bratton, where he was, well, in fact that wasn't Glenn Bratton, that was Roger Ganesh, but here is Glenn Bratton, P23. And he'll be your sole finisher on circuit, a lap down. I think Jermaine Warren as well was also a lap down, but he's already made his way to the pit lane. And then it'll be Mark Senegal ahead of Jay DeVries, with what will be Jesse Jemison Jr. and Dominic Ford completing the standings there. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for intense radical Eurotrip Championship racing action, and it's absolutely delivered here at the Austrian circuit at the Red Bull Ring. And I'll tell you one thing, if that's going to be the standard that we've set ourselves for the remainder of the Central Cup, I can only imagine what the next 3 rounds are going to be like, because everywhere you look today, battles are plenty. And whilst we couldn't catch them all, we caught most of the critical ones, I think we'll agree. But what a race between our drivers. And as they all come into the pit lane, let's take you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. So after 30 minutes of racing in round number 5 of 12 in the middle of the pack Racing League Radical Eurotrip Eurotrip Championship 2023, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. James Logsdon taking the overall win for Bear Pope by 1.5 tenths. The end over Sunday GT Turtles, Jason Landry, and Bear Pope Zero's Peter Lowe completing the pro and the overall podium there. Behind Peter Lowe was John Croom, P4 there for Rockefeller Racing Gold, who just managed to finish ahead of his teammate Ilya Speaker, who was P5 overall, but more critically for the 106 driver, that's the pro and win once again, falling to Ilya Speaker. He seems unstoppable. Can anybody stop him now, as that advantage is going to grow immensely? Jordan Butler, P6 for DNA Motorsports, ahead of Jake Gertsen for Reverse Grid Racing, in a great drive there for Gertsen, and showing that whilst qualifying didn't quite work out, he had the pace to be inside this top 10 comfortably, in a great little battle between himself and Aaron Lahr. Speaking of Aaron Lahr, P8 there for the privateer, ahead of Logan McKenzie for AlphaTauri Change Gold, and John Lauzon completing a top 10 there for AlphaTauri Change Silver, and second place in the prime class. P11 for Mike Young, round off the Pro-Am podium there for Reverse Grid Racing with his first podium of the season, we should add, ahead of Keith Wilfred, who on his switch to the Prime class and the Am class as of this round, delivering and showing that race pace, no doubt about it, for Rockefeller Racing Red. And then Tanner Dibble P13 ahead of Milan Harris, the DNA Motorsports and the Rockefeller Racing Gold drivers exchanging at places between one another more than most, ahead of Tim Chong there, P15 overall. And what a day it's been today for the Slipstream Sloths driver. A difficult qualifying session which saw him qualify all the way down in P25, but in the end bringing it on home for the win in the AM class, and that is the way to do it. Jay Davies, P16, then the Rockefeller Racing Red driver, second place in the AM class, and whilst he'll be a little bit disappointed he missed out on the win in the class, he'll still be happy to be on the podium and right behind the race winner, so he won't lose too many points overall in the championship. Head of Lee Porter, P17, with the middle of the pack racing driver being followed up there by your third place and finisher, P18 overall, Samuel Bernardi for Rockefeller Racing Red. And if he hadn't made that mistake early on at what could have been today for Samuel Bernardi, but still, he'll be dreaming of what he can do at the Hungaroring in a week's time instead. Eamon Dorsey for Rockefeller Racing Green and Kevin Manning for Photon Clan, completing your top 20, ahead of Roger Ganesh, then Ian Henneberry and Glenn Bratton, who is your last lead lap finisher for the privateer outfit of the 289. Well, in fact, he was your last finisher of the race that we saw on camera, and he did finish a lap down. We should correct ourselves there, but the last lead lap finisher being Ian Henneberry, P22 for Bear Pope 0. But after Bratton, P24, Jermaine Warren, 2 laps down at the end for middle of the pack, not to be his race today, but a great battle between himself and Lee Porter midway through the race. The two teammates definitely scrapping off. And then we saw Mark Senegal, P25 for Sunday GT Turtles, 3 laps down, but ahead of our retirees in the race of Jay DeVries for Reverse Grid Racing, who will be classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance. In fact, I don't think he will be classified as a finisher, as 8 laps down. And if I remember the rule book here, ladies and gentlemen, drivers must finish at least within 5 laps of the lead finisher in order to be counted as having completed the race. So therefore, it will be a classified non-finish for Jay DeVries for Reverse Grid Racing, as it will be for Jesse Jamison Jr. for Photon Clan, and also for Dominique Ford of the same team there. So Photon Clan having one great achievement today in the form of what was Kevin Manning finishing P20 and P4 in the AM class, but for their other drivers, a difficult day and one to bounce back from as of next round. Now, coming on to the individual classes, just to give you an update on the pro class, firstly, we can see James Logsdon there taking the win, ahead of Jason Landry with Peter Lowe at P3, a further second behind. I think you'll know today that P3 was hard grafted and the best he could get, given his qualifying position and how his race started. John Croom, disappointed perhaps a little bit in the fact he didn't finish on the podium, but you'll know that his results are coming his way, ahead of Jordan Butler, and then Jake Gertsen, Aaron Lahr, Logan McKenzie, Tanner Dibble, and Milan Harris completing your top 10 and the pro finishing positions. Coming on to the Prime class, and of course, bonus points awarded to the top 3, the podium finishers, and Ilya Speak, they're taking the win by almost 14 seconds over John Lauzon, with Lauzon in return a further 12 seconds clear of Mike Young. But great racing from all 3 of them, and again, a special mention to Mike Young for taking his first Prime podium of the season. Keith Wilfred at P4 ahead of Lee Porter, with Avon Dorsey being the last lead lap finisher. 2 laps down at Jermaine Warren, and then we had the non-finishers of Jay DeVries and Dominique Ford. And lastly, we come to the AM class here, and as we can see, Tim Chong taking the win in the end by only 7.5 tenths, but whether it was 7.5 tenths or 7.5 seconds, he won't mind. He got it to the line for Slipstream Sloths, and he'll be absolutely pleased. There's a lot of points coming his way, ahead of Jay Davies and Samuel Bernardi, and the Rockefeller Racing Red drivers having to settle for a 2-3 today on the podium. Kevin Manning, P4, ahead of Roger Ganesh, with Ian Henneberry, P6 there for Bear Pope 0, then finishing a lap down at Glenn Bratton, and 3 laps down at Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles, and then your non-finisher there, P9, Jesse Jamison Jr. for Photon Clan. Definitely a difficult day today for the 231 driver. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a recap of all the results from today's racing, all of them provisional, subject to any stewards' inquiries. But that does conclude all of our racing here today at the Red Bull Ring. And without further ado, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's broadcast and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid in a future Middle of the Pack Racing League series, or you just want to know a little bit more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community in general, the MPRL, then firstly, why not check out our official Discord? It doesn't hurt to join, it's completely free of charge, and it's an absolutely brilliantly community-led pack. Oh, goodness me, stumbling over my words there. A brilliant community, I should say, absolutely packed with friends amongst the community. You'll be happy to set you on the right path if you want to be on the grid. The Discord link available right there on screen. Alternatively, if you don't want to jump onto the Discord, you are welcome to follow us on social media at the Middle of the Pack Racing social media channel on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/MOP Racing. We can find out all the latest details of the upcoming series and ongoing series, and also you can find out a little bit about the trials and tribulations of the official Middle of the Pack Racing esports teams when they do compete in the official iRacing events. But now, ladies and gentlemen, attention turns to the next round, and what it will be round number 6 on Saturday the 21st of October. Save the date, because that's when we're going to be bringing you the post-round broadcast of all the racing action from the Hungary in Hungary. And well, what a different circuit it is going to be, ladies and gentlemen. Famed for its inability to enable overtaking opportunities, it's all going to be about track position. Or is it? Because the Hungary and these radicals is going to be a very difficult circuit to get right lap after lap, and we could see plenty of battles before we even complete the first lap. But how will it all unfold in the second round of the Central Cup and the 6th round of the overall championship? We'll find out then, but until then, we have been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I'm your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay well, stay smiling, stay safe, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.